In Bar's name we pray. Amen. It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock life for us. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses, we get kissed. I fucked that up. Full disclosure, I had to look up the lyrics to that song. And I'll be honest, they were different than I thought. Did you know the lyrics? I always thought it says something like, like a person's name. Like someone said that we get tricked. And like instead of treated, we get kicked. I didn't know it was like instead of treated, we get tricked. Like trick or treat. Bars. That is a bar and a half right there. Playing on the words of trick or treat. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. It's a hard knock life. Bars. Just kicking bars. Straight up bars. Mars bars. I love that I've started people to start saying bars. I didn't invent bars. If you really need to know the breakdown and the origin story of bars, it comes from hip hop. When you got bars, I know I've explained this before, but when someone's spitting, those are bars because a verse is 16 bars. That's how you break it down in music. You can have a bridge, it could be 4, you can have the 8-bar chorus. It's literally just a breakdown of music. But it's been taken in hip hop and turned into a way of just saying like this, when like when you see those memes, they're like, this motherfucker's spitting. That's also the same as saying bars. You just keep them on deck. You keep them bars on deck. I've said it so many times. I'm sponsored by bars. This episode is brought to you by bars and my hat. If you're watching the video, I got a Paperboy hat on. And ironically, I didn't sing that song just because it matched up with like Andy and them wearing Paperboy hats. I just wore this. I'll be honest with you. I'm not really going anywhere today, okay? I put on a hat to film a podcast because if you don't know, I'm a fashion icon, okay? Everybody knows it. I've always been one. Started at the bottom, now we're here, if you will. High school, growing up, thrift store shopping, getting those free bars, getting those $5 bars, those kicks. I remember one time I went to high school, I wore like weird smoking lounge shoes. They were like velvet suede or some shit. I remember being like, hey mom, are these cool? She was like, yeah. Why the fuck did I ask my mother what was cool for high school? She was just probably trying to keep me a virgin. She was like, yeah, wear those, Evan. Bitches are gonna love it. Thanks, mom. Thanks. But I am a fashion icon, I never said it was a good fashion icon, but it's fashion, honey. Look it up, okay? Welcome to Wednesday. I love that I'm not lying to you guys anymore, okay? It's a huge weight off my chest, the fact that I do this and I release it the same day, okay? Because I hated saying, welcome to Thursday. And then because I try to be an honest fella, well, look at this hat. I'm honest. I would correct myself and be like, well, actually, it's Wednesday. And I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of the hoops, the hemming and the hawing, all the bullshit. And you know what else I'm tired of? Do you know what else I'm tired of? I feel like motherfuckers shouldn't be able to call me to talk to me about a thing I said on a podcast on their time, okay? I have to make these rules, people. There's people who I know personally that listen to the podcast. So we have great talks, But don't think you can call me to talk your political bullshit and try to call me out for what I said on a podcast. You know how hard it is to do a podcast? It's not very hard. But here's the truth. You have to keep that dice shaking the whole time. You're going to say things. You got to keep it flowing. In a conversation, it's easy to go back and forth into, oh, well, this is what I mean when I say things. This is what I mean. I don't mean this literal. And it goes back to my whole point. Your boy was accused of being an all lives matter person, as if that's some crazy thing. Because guess what? If you support Black Lives Matter or all lives matter, you kind of support all lives matter in the literal sense of the word. Yeah, but I got accused of that. And it's silly because I was talking about it in the last episode. I hope I'm triggering people right now. I hope it, because you know what your boy is. I said this before. All lives matter. Black lives matter. No lives matter to me. Okay? no lives matter anymore. Just had it. I'm fed up. But it is funny that people like to talk about the semantics of words. Literally deja vu of the last episode. But people like to talk about the semantics of words and what they mean. And not even what you mean when you say it. You get upset at what the other person means when they say it. When usually everybody agrees that all life is sacred. And it's funny, I can't say all life is sacred because someone's like, oh, all lives matter. There's an all in there. There is an all. You know what else there's an all in? Ball is life, baby. Come at me. Meet me on that court. Your boy got them tricks up his sleeve. Okay, I don't know if you knew this. Pretty much a globetrotter. Okay, I grew up watching the And One tour, and I did all the tricks. Very surprising to a lot of people. A little racist. I had my buddy. We play Xbox together, and I said, "What do you think? You want to play NBA 20K or whatever it is?" He's a black fellow, and he goes, "Really?" And I was like, "Wow, racist." Okay, you don't think I would want to play a little b-ball? Okay, I've always I start talking about this on stage. The worst culture appropriation ever done in history. Everybody wants to talk about the shame of what white people do. Black people. What you guys did to white people in the sport of basketball, okay? That was more divisive than anything. White people used to get actual court time before black people, 10 black people joined basketball. Dunking used to just be like something they would joke about. They'd be like, "Hey, Ted, can you actually imagine if I went up and I just slammed the ball through? That'd be crazy." But yeah. That was a joke, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say that. Things are so tense right now. Shit's wild. Shit's wild out there. It's weird. It's a weird time in the world. It's a weird time to be doing comedy or to try to be a free thinker. Everybody is so dividing. I see a lot of things, and even people who have good intentions posting stuff that I'm just like, ugh, this doesn't help. It doesn't help. Because here's the thing. I touched on this last episode. This is the thing. I'm just going to regurgitate everything I said on the last episode because I gave it a 10 out of 10. This whole Republican Democrat thing, it's ridiculous. It needs to stop because do you guys realize that it's turned everybody into teams where it's like it's divided everybody? And I get it. There's parties and there has to be a way that we get past that and we start looking at as it's not us versus them. It's not the citizens versus the cops. Because guess what? Plot twist. The cops are citizens. I don't know if you know that, but a cop is someone with a family. A cop is someone who has kids, who is scared to death. They're doing a very scary job and a very important job. And it's someone that, I'm sure just like with everything, there is people who got into that job because they have control issues. They have power issues. They want to be an enforcer. They were like, yeah, I want to be in a position of power, which is why I think politicians are corrupt, because you always hear about that. People who want to be the president shouldn't be the president. You need the person who's like, I don't really want to do this because it's a corrupt game and it keeps a lot of honest people away. But the same thing with cops is you do get people in there who just want power. But you get a lot of people who want to get in there to do a good job, to really protect and serve. And I feel like everybody forgets what the internet is. If you just went to Pornhub and you went on there, or if you just went on Instagram to all these fitness models, you'd be like, oh, every girl is an Instagram model. If you went to the Explore page, every girl's an Instagram model. No, that's what it's mainly full. I mean, my Explore page, you know what I'm saying? Algorithm. But a lot of it is that. And a lot of, you go to Pornhub, you're just like, oh shit, every girl does porn because that's everything I see. So then you start seeing people fuel division in the country where they're just like, look at this video. It happened again. Look at this. This just happened. But you don't see the percentages of how many interactions happened that get swept under the rug. It's the same thing with the scare about coronavirus where you hear 100,000 cases confirmed coronavirus. It's the same thing when it comes to scare statistics and not being able to understand how many interactions are happening that are good. And you're kind of blanketing when you say, fuck the cops. I'm doing my own hypocrisy right now. When you start saying these broad statements like, fuck the cops, defund the police, well, do you mean all police, where 99.9% of the interactions that people have with police are safe and are positive? Or are you just referring to that 0.1%? I don't know what the statistic is of how many are actually violent. It's like you can't use these huge broad strokes for situations that have variables. And I think if you're really in this all lives matter, Black Lives Matter camp, everybody has to figure out a way to come together right now. You know, it really is. There's no dividing. If you keep going with this, it's us versus them mentality, it's going to get worse. There's going to be more friction. But a lot of times, I think it really comes down to people's ability to put their ego aside and go, hey, have you ever done that with an argument with a friend? Go, hey, we're good. Like, we don't need to have this argument, because like where you start saying things and your ego gets involved and you want to lash out because you're hurt or you're embarrassed or your ego is afraid to be wrong. You lash out. You don't want to admit you're wrong. You take personal offense to insults and everything, and you feel like you're being attacked personally. Sometimes you just got to stop and go, look, I know you're trying to do the right thing. I know that, you know, this fucking person walking by right now just yelling shit while I'm filming a podcast. God, I need a real podcast studio. These are the early days, baby. You know, we're going to come up. But I think that's really a lot of it, is that people throw out the baby with the bathwater when it comes to good people, when it comes to people with just minor deviations in what you consider is right or what you're fighting for. If I'm going to make a bold statement where what I believe, and this is truly what I believe, do I think all lives matter? Yes. Do I think Black Lives Matter? Yes. It's like, it's silly that people really are still arguing over the semantics of what you mean when you say that. You guys both kind of mean the same thing. You guys are both trying to achieve the same goals. And when it comes to like this particular situation, George Floyd, I don't know anybody. I haven't seen a single post, not a thing on the internet, where anybody, no matter what side of anything they're on, thinks that that was okay. I haven't seen one situation where someone thought that. I think this really is a case. And when you start seeing a lot of these cases, it's a lack of education and training in the police system. It really comes down to that, whether it is from the vetting process, whether it is from the education process and how trained officers are. The idea of defunding the police couldn't be a more stupid idea. The idea of reevaluating police officers and figuring out a way to break it up in the sense of we need to stop this whole us versus them mentality, because you know what? If you start telling people they're pieces of shit and you don't support them and all this stuff, guess what? They're not going to support you, and they're going to take on that mentality of it's us versus them. So I think that that's a huge thing, is you have to humanize people. You can't treat people like they're animals, and that goes both ways. I know there's a counter argument to where people are like, well, don't treat people like pigs and don't treat them like animals, and we won't treat you like animals. Hey, very childish thing to say. Okay. It doesn't get us to solutions because it doesn't accept responsibility. for any actions. And I think that's a huge thing in life. And I'm not trying to lecture you this whole fucking episode. It's just, it got my Billy Goat scruff. Don't know what that means. But yeah, it's interesting. And I think a lot of it is we have to stop arguing with each other over stuff that doesn't matter. We have to all try to be good individuals, understand people's perspectives and their points and where they're coming from. Everybody has a unique experience and different interactions. I've had bad interactions with cops. I've had good interactions with cops. Dude, there was a time in my life where I hated firefighters because when my brother passed away, they didn't take action when, I know this is about to get real graphic and real dark. But, my brother passed away in front of me, and it was a terrible situation where he was pinned under a car. And when hours later, we were out in the middle of the desert, the firefighters and ambulance showed up, and they didn't give any emotional help to me begging for them to help me get him out because they knew that it was too late. And they just stood there. And for years, I held resentment. And I hated firefighters, and I hated cops, and I literally wanted to attack them because I was so hurt in that moment. And I realized that was a group of individuals that didn't know what to do, and they weren't trained or qualified enough to handle that situation in a soothing manner, if you will. And I think that's where it comes into is like, sometimes we put way too much. Like I think we've give the police department and I don't know if you would group first responders in with this or firefighters. Sometimes we paint with such broad strokes. There's no way that a fire department with what they get paid in their salary, they go out and take kittens out of trees. Okay. That we should be having, we need to break it up in the sense of delegating to smaller niche disciplines within first responders. There was that case in Dallas, and this is something I didn't know. I think his name was Tim something. You're going to have to Google it. But it was this young man who suffered from mental illness, called the cops while he was in Dallas. He called them and said, "I'm not doing well. I'm mentally unstable. I went off my pills. I need help. I don't feel safe." So the cops showed up, didn't handle the situation correctly, put him in handcuffs, put their knee on his back until he passed out. He was screaming that he couldn't breathe till he passed out. And then they started mocking him while he was unconscious and coming in and out of consciousness, saying, "Oh, come on, little boy, wake up, wake up. Oh, I don't want to go to school. Come on, we have breakfast ready." You can watch the video. And this was a white feller. And that's a situation where that should have been delegated to someone with training of dealing with mental illness. Just like you break up a hospital, different kind of nurses in different areas, they specialize in what they do. You have hospice, you have the emergency room, you have pediatrics, you have nurses that work in the VA. They're all kind of, you're trained with broad strokes within nursing school, which usually is at least a 4-year dedicated program. There needs to be that kind of interdisciplinary training for police officers or people in the police force. And I think we need different positions than just, "Oh, he's a police officer." Maybe we should have a situation where we have, "Oh, he's an MI police officer. He's a mental illness police officer." Obviously, come up with a better name. If you guys want to use that, feel free. An MIP, that's a mental illness police officer, bars. And start having that. You could have a CC police officer, crowd control, someone who's trained and has dealt with that, the training to handle that situation. Dude, here is the truth of why I think everybody should do jujitsu and martial arts training. I used to get in fights all the time growing up. I had a lot of anger. And I had a lot of rage and uncertainty. And when you have that kind of thing, you're afraid someone is going to mess with you. I got bullied when I was younger, and you're afraid people are going to mess with you. So what you do is you hit first, and you're ready. You're always on edge. You feel like anything can pop off because people have messed with you, and you're scared, and you don't want something to happen. So you tend to actually get more violent quicker because people are always testing you. Once I got into boxing, all that went away. Once I started sparring and competing and everything, it just went away. Because I knew that if I got in a certain situation, I could defend myself. I was okay. And the more you're involved in those high stress situations, the calmer you are in real life altercations to avoid it escalating. Because a lot of times you got in your back pocket, you're like, I keep them hands on deck. I'm not that worried. Could anybody knock anybody out that come up behind you? Yeah. But the thing is, I know I'm going to be calm in that situation because I've dealt with it. Listen, when you get in a gym and you start sparring and you're putting your mouthpiece in and your coach is putting, Vaseline on your gloves so you don't cut. They're putting Vaseline on your nose. You're taking a sip of water. You're getting the headgear on, whatever. It's a very nerve-wracking feeling. When your coach tells you, hey, tomorrow you're going to spar with so-and-so. Boom. I'm thinking about it for the rest of the day. As you do that over and over and over again, it starts desensitizing you to the fear of that situation. And once you actually calm down, you don't really black out anymore. There's times early on where I wouldn't really remember what happened. I would just get in there and just be like, you're so scared. But then once you experience it enough, you get calm. And the same thing with jiu-jitsu is you start seeing things that other people don't see, and you start staying calm in those situations. You're not constantly flexed. If we develop, we need these cops to constantly be evaluated and to have to go through training. I saw a thing that all police officers should have to become a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I agree 100%, because it gives you confidence in those moments to be able to control someone without having to take it to the next level. A scary thing, I look at some police officers and I'm like, you are out of shape. You are not in shape for this job. You're going to go 0 to 100 real quick because you have no other options. That can't be the situation. When you start seeing police officers in these protests and they're pushing people back and people are getting angry and emotional, fuck you, in your face. These cops that push back, and there's that old man who got pushed, fractured his skull, went unconscious, was bleeding. Very bad. I don't think it's the job, when you start seeing these cops being like, we need to dominate this situation and we're the authority. No, you're not, fucko. Your job is to de-escalate situations. If people get violent and they become a threat to you physically or a threat to innocent people around, you have to subdue that person. I think making chokeholds illegal for police officers, dumb idea, because you know what's going to happen? People are going to start punching people. They're going to start hitting them with batons. They're going to knock them out, going to have brain damage. You put someone in a choke and you put them to sleep real quick, you can cuff them and there's no issues, okay? It's a dumb idea to make those illegal. I think those situations where you have that old man in particular, where the cop pushes him and he falls back and hits his head on the concrete, that's not okay. You can't try to use that kind of authority. I think you need to try to de-escalate situations, at least, give people respect and try to really de-escalate. There's situations, obviously, there's bad people in this world. There really are. They're criminals. And if we got rid of the police, it would be insane. But I think we need better pay and more training for these police officers. It's insane. It's easy for me to wax poetically with my paperboy hat right now. It's a bigger issue, but I don't know. I told myself I was just going to touch on the friend calling me. So that's a new thing. If you want to call me to talk about things I said in the podcast, you have to carve out 45 minutes for a debate, okay? Or a real talk. which has to end with, I'm sorry, Evan, I was wrong. Did you guys just hear Beowulf snore? She don't give a shit about this podcast. She don't give a shit what I say. She's not impressed with me. Yeah, it's interesting with everything with, I think this is what a big issue is with why we get so far down roads and people commit too hard to certain teams, is because we don't let people have any leeway for being wrong. People admitting that they made mistakes. People have no choice but to double down on their decision once someone tries to weaponize it against them. I think that's a terrible thing for the country, and just for the world. It doesn't work in relationships right like that. Have you ever seen where someone makes a mistake and you constantly berate them for it? Dude, I've been in situations in the past where you make a mistake or you admit something that you did wrong and people constantly bring it back up to you and use it in arguments. You're like, well, now I don't want to admit that I'm ever wrong or anything because it's just going to be used against me. That's the big issue I think we have with politics and everything, is that we weaponize when people make mistakes, and we treat them like they're not supposed to be human, and that things don't change once we have new information. If the president came out and was like, look, I reacted bad to this, and this is what, I said, and this needs to be fixed. I apologize to the people, and we need to find a way to fix this issue. Do you know how amazing that would be for a person to do that in a political world? It would be such a breath of fresh air. But the thing is that so many people are looking for mistakes, chinks in the armor, to be able to attack for it. Be like, oh, look, the president isn't even certain of what he's doing, blah, 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 blah. So it creates an environment where you just can't be a person. You have to double down on everything. And it's insane. Crazy, crazy shit. Was only going to do 1 minute on that, and we did quite a bit. Dude, I saw about, have you guys seen this Capitol Hill shit? This is wild. There is a city in Seattle where a few blocks, these people have roped it off and basically decided that they're the Walking Dead. That now they just own part of the city. They just went full Negan on that shit. It's so insane that I can't believe this happened, where the cops just left and they were like, all right, you guys do it. I didn't know that really could happen. I joke about that, where you're just like, yeah, all right, see what happens if we leave. No more cops. They actually did it. Capitol Hill. Basically, I don't know if they're hippie folk or what, but they're running a part of a city in Seattle now, a few blocks. They just own it. It's just, they called it Chaz. Chaz? You named your city Chaz? Chaz. Weird. But what's funny now is they're asking for donations. They're asking for random shit. I saw a post of them posting it that Chaz needed outside support, fucking Bernie Sanders. Just I'm once again asking for your financial support. Rest in peace, Bernie Sanders. But it was such a weird list. They were Gatorade, hot dogs. It was as if someone in a fraternity was making a shopping list while their buddy was at the store. Someone was like, get Gatorade, get hot dogs. I need Band-Aids. I need a new comforter. It's the weirdest put together. I need 3 AAA batteries. It's just the weirdest shit they compiled that they need. There was a cup of noodles, and I'm like, what? Who even just thinks we need some cup of noodles for this? If we're going to keep holding down Chaz, we need a carb load with some cup of noodles. So weird. And then I saw last night that now there's patriotic bikers, which I don't know what the fuck that means. Patriotic bikers are going in there to take Chaz back. We're having an inner civil war, but inside our country, of a little city, a few blocks that just became its own thing. And now some bikers are going in there to take over, and they're going to break it apart. I hope this gets streamed live on YouTube. I need to see this. Okay, I want to see action highlights. I want some backstories. I basically want this to be a Walking Dead season. Scrap whatever The Walking Dead was planning for their season finale. Just air this shit because it's going to be better than anything The Walking Dead comes up with. It's funny how quick we go back into being like tribal. Now we're having the patriotic bikers, like a gang is going up there to break up Chaz. So weird. People have seen way too many movies, but I'm more impressed. Like, how did this actually happen? How does this happen where you actually can take over blocks? Listen, there's a house down the street for sale. I'm going to just walk in it and be like, I challenge you to a duel for this property. Like, can I just invade someone's home now? Is that back on the table? Because I'll be honest with you, Ventura, older community, okay? I had an old man yesterday. I was walking my dog down the street. I smiled at him and his wife while they were doing some yard work. And then he looks at me, looks at my dog, and then looks back at me, and then just looks away. After I said hi to him, I gave him the old little nod and a smile. And he made it a point to not smile back at me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he doesn't like my dog. But you know what? He's stereotyping, okay? Because there are people in Ventura that don't clean up their dog shit on the sidewalk or, the grass. And not me, okay? So you can't generalize. You can't stereotype, okay? Dog lives matter. There, I said it, okay? People just get so upset. I'm like, hey, you're living in a multi-million-dollar house in Ventura. Hashtag overpriced. Smile at the nice fellow walking down the street with his dog who nodded his cap to you. Top of the morning to you, laddie. I had a friend send me that the Mayan calendar was wrong and that they just re-crunched the numbers. And apparently the world's supposed to end this weekend or something. So cool. That's what we have to look forward to. Very excited about that, I'm sure it'll be okay. It's crazy to think about all the shit. It'd be wild. Like, how would a Mayan calendar really have known? It would make sense, though, if this was the year. Could you imagine if we never, 2012, when the Mayan calendar was supposed to end? Could you imagine if all of this would have started happening in that year? We would have for sure thought the world was ending. That would have been crazy. Maybe the world should have ended in 2012. Dude, honestly, 2020 might be the greatest movie of all time. Because if you think about it, not for us who are here, it's going to be real shitty for us. We're not going to make it. The people on Earth is what I'm referring to. But for the people who just left to go to space, those astronauts, where are they going? Mars? They're going to be the ones that the movie's about. We're just all background actors in that movie. Even then, that's why I think it's so important. Oh, I'm about to get back on it. Why it's so important to realize it's never us versus them, and that we have to learn how to try to talk to each other and to realize that it's okay to have disagreements, but we need to find a solution and work together. Because here's what's going to happen. If you think there's racial divide, just wait till humans that defect to Mars and they go there, we start treating them different. Like, they're going to be Martians. Do you realize that when a baby is born on Mars, that is now a Martian? That's not a human being. That's a Martian, okay? It's not an Earthling. And we're going to treat people different. And if there's ever like a supply of resources that goes low, we're for sure going to turn on them. If they need something and we don't have like an abundant supply of it, we're going to be like, no, well, maybe they shouldn't have gone to fucking Mars. And then the Martians are going to resent us. And they're like, oh, cool. We found these minerals on Mars that can, now we have laser beams. We're going to laser the shit out of you fucks on Earth. unless you give us our supplies. And then here comes some trouble from Uranus. Okay, here comes some trouble from Uranus, because then people from Mars are going to defect to Uranus, because everybody likes to go to Uranus. Comedy. That's got to be the one joke that holds up to me. It's so hacky. It's low-hanging fruit, but a good Uranus joke. A good Uranus joke. I give a pass on all Uranus jokes, and that's what she said jokes. I don't care if it's like, this is hard. That's what she said. Haha, I'll give you that one. I don't give a shit what it is. Yeah, it's going to be weird. The Mayan calendar, I don't believe it. I don't think the world's ending. I think we might end as a species, but I think it's going to be fine. Earth will find a way, you know. And that's the thing, is you just got to connect yourself to the bigger picture. Because if we all get wiped out, it's probably for the best, right? Right? It's just going to be like nuclear battles, and then it's only beta fish because they can just live in puddles and shit. Yeah, this thing's really gone off the rails, huh? Really gone off the rails. I just think it's such a weird time where everything is getting canceled. It's like toxic, where people, even a lot of comedians, a lot of people are just, everybody's taking the bait from the media. Everybody has an agenda. And it's like, people are so scared to say anything against the mainstream narrative. So they have to fuel it to show they're on the side of it, which is like another crazy thing. Because if certain news channels aren't posting about certain stuff, the feeding frenzy try to get that news channel canceled. They try to get celebrities canceled. It's crazy. It's crazy for not supporting what they support when there's so many flaws in people's belief systems. It's a crazy time in the world. There's gonna be stuff in the future. Like, I think progress is important, obviously. I think generational progress is great. Listen, my dad was born in a house with dirt floors in the mountains of Puerto Rico. His dad worked the sugarcane fields in New York and would send money back to Puerto Rico until he could bring his family over. I'm the American dream, baby. I'm the American dream. That's progress right there. That's progress. Progress comes in many shapes and forms. Going forward, I have to push that progress in the sense of like, look what my grandfather, my abuelito, did for me. Now I need to do that for generations coming up, and not only just for our family, but for other people who don't have opportunities in our country. That's the thing, people, is I'm good. Once I have enough to just not have to do anything I don't want to do when it comes to finances, I got to spread the wealth. We got to empower individuals to take back control of their lives. Okay? It's crazy to think like what was acceptable with progress and racial stuff back in the day. When you start looking at these things from the 1920s and people get angered by them. The history of America and the history of all countries, if you go back far enough, you're going to find terrible shit was done with every culture. It's not just America that had slavery. We were one of the first countries to end it. That's a beautiful thing. We were one of the first countries to end it. You think the Egyptian royalty built all those pyramids? You don't think there's still slavery going on in Africa? Look at the pygmies. You have families that are working 10 hours a day just for a banana in Africa. There's a lot of dark shit that still goes on in the world. Look at who makes your iPhone just so Apple can get higher profits as I hide my iPhone. There's still so much that is wrong in the world. But there's still so much progress that is right. And you can choose to look at all the bad stuff that's happened. And you can look and just shame and guilt. Or you can look at progress and keep pushing it forward. I think it's important to see the bad stuff that was done in the past, to look at our progress, and to keep fixing our future. I think right now is a big movement towards fixing our future. We're going to figure out how to fix this issue as a society. It's all of our responsibility that we've been part of this society. And we all need to take responsibility, because then once we have responsibility of it, we can push it forward and try to figure out a way to contribute. Listen, there's going to be a point in the future where in 15, 20 years, my kids are going to look at me and go, wow, you ignorant fuck. You ignorant fuck. You used to put collars on dogs like they were your slaves. You would not let them just, because dogs are going to evolve and become more intelligent and like not need leashes and collars. And then there's going to be like, wow, you used to actually put it on a collar, make it walk next to you, do whatever you wanted it to do. And in 20 years, dogs are going to have jobs and shit, That's the future I hope to live in. This goddamn freeloading Beowulf over here. And then it's going to be like, wow, you used to actually put dogs in cages. Wow. You ignorant fuck. I think in the future, 25, 30 years, I think they're going to figure out equality in the sense of how you should talk about it. I always felt like equality was like, everything is on, there's nothing off limits. You can't touch on certain things like jokes with friends and everything. Treat people as equals. And when it comes to like treating people as actual equals, it's not treating people different because of their past or where they're from and everything. You can understand people's experiences and know where they're coming from. But I feel like the meaning of actually equality is equal, right? And we need to work towards that world, not overcompensate, not try too much and make people feel uncomfortable. Dude, when I was a little kid, if we were all playing basketball and, I was a short little kid and imagine them wanting to lower the hoop for me to make it, I'd be like, hey, fucko, way to embarrass me. I had people DM me because I'm half Puerto Rican about how they should act with me. And I'm like, whoa, this is weird. Going too far. I think in 20 years, my kids are going to be like, wow, you're ignorant actually calling someone else an African American. No, they're just American. That's what my kids are going to say. And they're going to be like, wow, you called yourself a Puerto Rican. You called yourself a spick-a-mick, half Irish, half Puerto Rican. You ignorant fuck. And I'll be like, well, kids, those were the times. And they're going to be like, wow, you actually, I don't know, I don't have any more examples. You actually use TikTok. And I'll be like, hey, those were dark times in my life, But you know what they're not going to be able to say? Wow, you actually did Zoom comedy. You did Zoom comedy shows. I'll be like, hey, I never did that. They'll be like, proud of you, Papa. Proud of you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a good episode. Probably going to be an episode that gets me canceled. But whatever. I don't give a shit. You can cancel me. Okay? Because if that's the name of the game where I can't talk about the shit I want to talk about and say things, and you don't look at my real intentions, or you take a little soundbite and you want to put me up on a cross for it, you want to sacrifice me to your cancel culture gods, well, by golly, I don't want to be part of that culture. I'll go live out in the farm. I'll go live out in the mountains. I don't give a shit. I'll hide away and become a monk. Not give a shit. I'll still record my podcast with Mono here, and we just won't put it out. We'll just record it, give ourselves a little high five, and then just go tend to the field, tend to the crops. But no matter what, even with all this bullshit, I still hate you. But I still love you.